This is our first In the Know podcast, and we're going to have Steve here introduce you to the viewers.
First of what podcast?
In the Know.
What's in the know mean?
You're just in the know of everything, really. So, and everything creative-wise, whether it's fashion or music, you just...
Oh, well, I create bad atmospheres. Anyway.
So I've known Philip for many years. I met Philip in Heaven nightclub, over 20 years ago, and he used to sit at the back of Heaven with Matt Lucas. And
I never sit at the back of anywhere, actually.
Well,
I'm always running around.
Okay, well, you might be running around, but I must have met you every Saturday, and every Saturday you would say to me, "Don't I know you?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, I met you last week." And it was after about 20 times that we finally became friends, and then we've been friends ever since. But you'd act like you'd met me for the first time every Saturday. But
really? And how long ago do you think that was?
That must have been maybe 20, maybe 25 years ago, maybe even longer than that.
That's interesting to know. Because, you get worried. You think maybe I'm going senile. But if I was doing it 20 years ago, I think I've just always been like that.
Yeah.
Because I speak to every person conceivable. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's just another human being. But, how many can you remember? There's certain people that they, whatever. But a lot of the time I look at people and go, "Oh, I know you, don't I?" And I think, who is that? But, I rarely say I don't recognise you at all. I mean, people get really funny about that, but especially actors, they hate it because they're desperate to be remembered, and it's how dare you pretend not to remember me?
Didn't you do that with Madonna once in Home House?
Well, I met her, but I didn't acknowledge her presence. Her husband said hello. And I started talking to him, and then after about a minute, I looked down and goes, "Where do you live then?" And I knew exactly where they lived. And she goes, "Marble Arch." And I goes, "Oh, really?" And then I kept on talking to him, but it was what it was.
So was there, in your career, is there ever a moment in your career where you look back and you think, "Do you know what? I wish I could change that or relive that," or...
No. My life, you just... live life. You don't dwell on suffering. Do you know what I mean? If it happens, it happens. But you're not human if you don't feel some kind of suffer, whatever. But just to keep going back on it, if somebody stitches me up, for me, they don't exist anymore. I blot them out, like they've stopped existing. So if I'm in a room there, I'll go in the other room. I don't want to see that they actually exist anymore. It's rare. Rarely in my life have I done it, but if that's the way it is. But I don't want to talk about them. I don't want to think about them. It's not a matter of not talking. I don't want to think about them either. There's no point. A therapist would go, "Oh, but you need to get it out of your system." Well...
I mean, no, I think it is good to move on from someone though. If someone's upset you that much,
you just think, fine, don't think about it, because they're kind of winning. They make you as bitter and twisted as they are.
So do you find it easy to get rid of someone out of your life if they've been so close to you, or have you ever thought about...
No, once they're gone, they're gone. End of story. I don't know if you call that easy or not. You just blot them out. But I don't often blot people. It's very rare. But, if I have to, I have to. You think, no, you're gone. Yeah, but very few people in my life I've done that with. Other people... But usually if somebody stitches me up in a horrible way, I'll just avoid that.
Is there anyone in particular that stitched you up?
No, there's all sorts of people that, I go to all sorts of places and do you know how I get people back, which is the more interesting way, which everyone can learn from? How?
Go on.
If I'm in a club, I've always done this one. I think somebody may have taught it to me, I don't know. Because I speak to millions of people, that it's rare that I don't know somebody at each little bit. So the person who's been horrible to me, I make a point of talking to every person around them. And I go like a circle, like Native American Indians, Red Indians, whatever you call them, like going around about to scalp them. But it's like, you can see they're talking away and they think, is he talking about me? And I'm not talking about them, but it makes them feel really paranoid. That's how I get people back.
It's a bit psychological.
Yeah, that's right. yeah, but but you never look at them ever. You don't ever look in their direction. So you just talk to the other people, but it makes them feel really uneasy. And it's like, how come they're all friendly to him? I thought he was a pig. He is a pig.
So, Philip, was there someone that you wish you'd have collaborated with but never had the chance to?
Yeah, I wouldn't have minded. I certainly wouldn't have minded doing something with Vivienne Westwood, but because she was so clued up. She's the only designer ever that, there's people that have done odd things that you think or whatever, but hers was so regular. She just went on and on doing a new idea after a new idea, which nobody else did. Yeah, they might change the colour for this season. They didn't feel a look and just get it exactly, the whole thing, the shape of the trouser, just everything about her. But then again, did I need to do something with her? She was so together. She didn't really need me. What would she need me for? Although she did use things that I'd done, a huge amount came from her, but there's odd things, quite a few more than odd, that she took from me. I'll give you some. I'm wearing a toga today. There's a picture of her and me in 1977 when she just launched the punk thing. Her shop was Seditionaries, and she just launched it. And there's a picture of us on New Year's Eve, and I'm wearing exactly what I'm wearing now, a white toga and everything. And then about 10 years later, she did her toga look, and it's like whatever, but just the logo, both logos she took from me. She did. I used to go in the shop in the 70s, and all I did was space age stuff originally. Everything had to look space age. And this is when she was doing a 1950s shop. Then it became Sex. It was changed names to Sex. Then it became Seditionaries, and it was all punk. But by the time of 77, 78, I started doing things that were 18th century inspired, but then she did that in the 80s. But when I used to go in the shop in the 70s, the two things that I was always drawing as an insignia on things was like 5-pronged stars or the planet Saturn. I had Saturn all over the place. And then in 1981, when she changed the shop to World's End, Saturn became their logo with a cross on top of it, so it looked like the Queen's Orb. So she added the cross. But then again, in the 90s, I did a ball, and it was like, I think it was Midsummer Night's Dream, and the invite was a pop-up Stonehenge, and it was cut out, and it stood up. It did thousands of them, for all the thousands turned up. And then the next year, that became the logo of the men. Yeah. But I'm not saying she didn't come up with anything new, but I suppose I could have. I think I was all right to lift things off, but then she translated it in her own way. But would want to work with me? Unlikely.
So she just got the inspiration.
I was going to say, it sounds like you inspired her a lot, and I think you were a lot of...
there was a huge amount. That punk thing was totally from her. That didn't come to me at all. The zips, the straps. The only thing I did with punk was I turned up at clubs. I did things different. I got a bin liner and I ripped it up, and I turned up. Heaven used to be called the Global Village in 1976, and all the little 16-year-old sort of trying to be trendies in King's Road were all going down there, and I turned up there in a bin liner and everything, and they threw me out after about 10 minutes, but within a month the whole place was wearing bin liners. So I did influence punk in a way, but mine was a different version. But then again, she was doing that shop Sex, and there was all black shiny stuff there. Yeah, it wasn't bin liners, but so it's not
get the vibe off bin liners from the collection.
Yeah, but it's still black and shiny, and she was doing that look. So
would you say that you were part of the new romantic movement with Vivienne, because she had a big part of it, didn't she?
Well, all I know is I told you I was doing 18th century Victorian, etc., from about 1977-ish.
Didn't you do the look before Adamant?
I did it totally before it, not just before him. It's like I used to go, well, it was, but the point is, I've got pictures of me, and I wore Vivienne Westwood's pirate look, which she did. But then again, I was at college with Rifat Ozbek at St Martin's, and this is 1978 or something, I think it was, and she did her pirate look in 1981. She opened up the shop with it, but he did all pirate look. He became a big designer, but she took that totally off him, the pirate look, but she did it in the totally right way, which he couldn't have done all the things she did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But she got the basic concept off him. So she might have got some basic concepts off me, but she did it in a mass way where everything was completely right. It just doesn't date something. It always looks like the look. And hold on, we were talking about pirates, and when I did her pirate look in 81, I used to So I'd have a gold eagle here or something, like a military eagle with her scarf. And then I'd put a gold strap across my face, going across my nose like this. That was part of my look. And then within a year, Adaman, about a year later, was doing that, but he painted the stripe on. But it was the same look.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But fine, good luck to me. Copied me.
Speaking of looks...
Yeah, but then again, he was good looking. He got away with it.
Speaking of looks, you are wearing your style today. Is there anything that you would call your style, and how did you get here? Did you turn up?
How was your train journey, basically?
Well, I've been wearing this toga look since 1976 or something. So how long ago is that? It's 50 years ago, or 49 years. So it's hardly a big deal for me to go out in a toga. What was the reaction
you got on the way here on the train, dressed like that?
I don't give a fuck. Are you allowed to swear on this thing?
Yeah, of course you can swear.
I don't know, but it just doesn't bother me. People have a problem with it. I make it their problem.
Yeah.
I do. I go out of my way to make it their problem.
I love it.
But in Britain, people are obviously not everyone, but people are much more prone towards venerating eccentricity. That they can get it a lot more. Here, you're doing your own thing, and they think, great. I mean, at school, I was forced to wear a uniform. Why would I wear a uniform for the rest of my life? Do you know what I mean? What's the point? It's where does that get you? But then again, I mean, I say that, but if I wear trousers now, they have to have a low crotch because it's modern. Well, that becomes a uniform, doesn't it? And if I wear a shirt collar, it has to be large because it's modern. It's like it's a 70s collar, like a dagger collar. But Vivian did it before. But then again, I was doing it in the 80s. I was reviving it. Then I bought a 70s shirt in the 80s with a great big dagger collar, and I've just never stopped doing that. But that's kind of, it's got this classical feel about it. But then again, if everyone's doing it eventually, you're just wearing a uniform ahead of time. You know what I mean?
So moving forward, obviously, sadly, we lost Vivian a few months back. What do you make of the brand now? Do you? I
think it's more than a few months. I thought she'd been dead a couple of years, hasn't she?
Has it been a couple of years?
How long do you think she's been dead?
Feels like okay. It feels like yesterday.
This year's going quite quick.
So do you think that the
problem was
changed?
she was talking to me and she died of boredom. But anyway, it was a horrible way to go. Yeah, very funny. No, she was always very nice to me. Yeah, go on.
Do you think the brand's changed a lot? Do you think Vivienne Westwood's never going to be the same? Do you think that
How can it be the same? It's like saying Picasso. I'm going to call myself Picasso now. I'm Paloma Picasso, and I'm going to do my father's picture. Was that her father, Paloma Picasso? Whoever it was, anyway. But Vivienne Westwood was Vivienne Westwood. Yeah. And it's all saying, well, Christian Dior is gone, but there can be no Christian Dior. But what she did was unbelievable. No one's ever done what she's done to the extent. It's such a vast thing. So, but it doesn't mean Vivienne Westwood won't be any good anymore. But
there's always going to be people who's going to try and copy the style. And
copy what style? She did things that hadn't happened yet. So copy what style?
There's always going to be someone who's going to look at her work and then try and kind of continue that. Obviously, it's never going to be the same.
It's not continuing. She suddenly did a complete change.
Yeah.
And continuing is, are they going to get that complete change? And the answer is,
I think so many designers have tried to copy Vivienne Westwood and failed. I think she was always ahead, wasn't she?
Big time. She was a genius on asymmetric as well.
Yeah.
And asymmetric is becoming more and more normal now. And skirts are up and down, and tops are one side one thing, one side the other. Do you know what I mean? But I remember her asymmetric. The first time I saw her do it was 1970. It was when Seditionaries opened, which was about the end of 76, I think it was. And she did these parachute tops, but one sleeve was one colour and one was another colour. And that's the only time I didn't get, I thought, well, it looks bitty, doesn't it? And now, it took me a while, but that's the only time she's ever really confused me. I thought, well, has she just not got it? But I didn't realise she was getting in on the asymmetric bandwagon, which is part of postmodernism. Postmodernism begins round about 73, 74, and its buildings in the 60s were all, regular and geometric and all that business. They were called everything was equal and whatever. And then suddenly, in postmodernism, not modernism, postmodernism, suddenly a bit was joined onto the building that was different. And it wasn't like an equal whole, and the whole genre of society was changing, where people were becoming less equal rather than, oh yeah, we're all equal now, it's we can make money. It was much more becoming like, yeah, we can make more money at other people's expense. And then Margaret Thatcher was voted into power by the end of the 70s, because that whole right-wing philosophy just grew and grew.
So what first sparked your desire to stand out rather than fit in? So when it comes to the way you dress, and rather than going with how everyone else decided to like dress, I'm really bad.
Well, dress is the superficial form of it, but I mean, I don't want to fit in any respect, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then again, you say that, but if everyone was the most wonderful people and everyone did each other good turns, well, I've got no problem fitting in with that. You know what I mean? But because clothes are just, you know, the fun, superficial, you know, flamboyancy part, but they're not the real things in life. I mean, you know, it's interesting as a superficial thing, but you say fitting in. When I was at school, you had to wear a uniform. Well, I said this earlier, I don't want to go through life, you know, being as uniform as possible. I'd rather not fit in things. And at school, you know, if you look slightly different, you had to live with those monsters all going, oh. So you had to play it down. But fine, I'm not in school now, so I can do what I want. And if people got a problem with it, fuck them. You know what I mean? But, you know, I think it was Karl Marx or somebody said, question everything. And I do question everything. I blindly accept nothing. You know, it doesn't mean I don't accept anything sooner or later, but I always question everything first and think, well, why? You know what I mean? You know, I'm not into drugs. I never have been. I think if they're going to fuck me up, what's the point? So, you know, I'm not interested in ever sampling them or anything. I've never smoked a cigarette. I don't care, you know. But, go on, what are you going to ask me?
So, with you have been known to have many different styles and unique tastes to what you want to wear and how you want to portray who you are. Has there ever been a time where
can I interrupt? No, stop there. You said portray who I am. They don't portray who I am. The only thing that portrays who I am in that respect is they portray that I'm not one thing, that I'm not categorized as a label, like, oh, he's the one in green, or he's the punk, he's the new romantic, he's the this. I'm not any of those things. So they don't categorize me as a thing. They categorize me as because each one is often different to the other one, you know, that's the thing. So they non-categorize me. It's hard to put me into a category.
Yeah.
Do you understand? What was the end of the question, though?
Was there ever a time where you thought you've gone too far with the way you've dressed, or do you reckon there's always more you can do to add to your personality?
More to add to my personality. All you can add to your personality is doing good turns for people. That's the right thing to do in life. But with clothes... Yeah, I mean, I think it was Coco Chanel that said it. Do you know about this famous line? She said, "What do you think?" You don't answer. I bet you know it. What was the last thing she ever did when she left the house?
I don't know that line.
Take something off. Because, and this is from my sister. My sister's famous line is, a good artist knows when to stop. You start adding things and you don't realise you've gone too far. Do you understand? And it's like, oh, well, I'm just free and whatever. But, you know, there's a difference between being a free spirit and a fucking mess. You know what I mean? And fine, you know, you could be wearing all silver and then you add some gold and it clashes. Yeah. But I like that as well. And it's knowing where to stop. I go as outrageous as I can. But look, is anything clashing? I'm just in all white today. White and
I remember when, years ago, I don't know if you remember when you turned up at Paris Fashion Week and you were dressed as a star.
A star?
You dressed as a star, and it was from a designer called Bryce Aim. And you were a big plastic star, and you couldn't get in the...
It wasn't a star.
It
was like a thing with all points coming out of me, wasn't it?
It looked like a star, but you turned up and you couldn't get in
a creature from another planet.
Yeah, and you couldn't get in the taxi. Do you remember? You turned up at Vivian's show, and they put you at the back because you couldn't sit at the front.
What, because I block everyone's view?
Yeah.
Fuck him. Yeah, the designer was very nice to let me wear his stuff. You know what I mean? But then again, it was an advert for him. So people do lend me stuff.
Yeah.
So I, you know, because I get photographed and then it gets shown. Do you know what I mean? And I don't think it's not making anyone look ridiculous. I do it in a way where nothing's clashing, so it actually does look together. You know what I mean? Rather than it's just, I can wear anything, it doesn't matter. That line can be taken two ways. It can be, I can wear anything, it doesn't matter, is true. But I can't wear anything where everything's clashing in the wrong way. It does matter. So it depends which way you mean that line.
You have to have taste to do it.
Well, yeah.
So moving on from fashion, obviously back in the day you were a huge club promoter. I mean, probably one of the biggest in the 80s. I mean, everyone. Anyway, what do you think has changed in the club scene? Do you think the club scene
loads has changed in the club scene, big time.
Do you think it's got better or worse?
I don't like that word better, because when things change, I always like the idea of things, well, not necessarily true. If racists come to power, then it's not a good idea. But generally, I like change. It just makes things fresher and newer. And but your question was, how do you think things have changed in the club scene? I mean, from the 80s, I was going back to the 60s. The 60s, you know, in the 60s you had discotheques, right? And you know, and it was loud thumping music, you know, like no, and people, girls like these, you know, what do they call the swinging 60s girls, whatever their names were, you know, mods and this, that, and the other, and they're just being vacuous and dancing away, and the blokes vacuous. Nobody talks about anything in depth. And in the 80s, it was a different look, but nothing had changed. It's this whole idea of being vacuous. You don't talk about anything deep. It's just like your objects bouncing around with no thinking capacity. You know, you think about very little apart from, have I done my makeup right? You know what I mean? Which is not thinking. That's just superficial, whatever. And now, I used to say this at the end of the 80s. I said in the 90s, we're going to enter an age of thought much more. And I was right. And we haven't gone away from it. We've moved on. It's a bit like, I don't know if you know this, in the 18th century, they had this thing called Rococo in the mid-18th century, where it was all flamboyant 18th century Cinderella, Prince Charming type characters with powdered wigs. And then by the end of the 18th century, Napoleon had come in, and it was all sombre and like much more, all the frills get taken away, and it's much more about, you know, we're revolutionary, we want to, there was socialism was involved in it and everything. It was a much more kind of social conscience, to more to do with that and thinking about things politically. And I said, I can see things going much more that way here, and it has gone that way. So Clubland now, the most successful club in the world, whether you like it is irrelevant. There's never been a club that's got that huge. It's Soho House. They've done unbelievably well, because in Soho House, you don't walk in initially to loud music. In the old, before, you walked into loud banging music, and then you might find a place to talk. And it's reversed now. You walk into talking, and music becomes secondary. And there might not be any music, or you might find a room where there is some, but it's not the prime thing. You know, and that's where Soho House has cashed in on that. They're clever enough to do that, and they also do that thing about being creative to be in there, and you know, rather than whatever. And actually, I mean, I didn't realise, I don't shake hands with people, and I used to in the 70s, and in the 80s I remember I stopped doing it. I said, and people said, why? And I goes, well, it's just old-fashioned. And in the last year or so, I've actually realised why it's old-fashioned. Why is it old-fashioned? Go on. Why would shaking hands be old-fashioned? And it was then as well, because there's a word that sums it up. And in Soho House, they got it, and they don't make the club look like that. But loads of cool clubs are into that. They don't use anything that, you can be the word, but you mustn't look the word, and you mustn't act the word, but you can be it. And shall I tell you what the word is? And shaking hands is part of it. Corporate. It's a swear word. And if a club looks like it's like a designed hotel, all, you know, correct and whatever, nobody wants to fucking know. If you walk into a club with a suit and tie looking corporate, they won't let you in. That, you know, forget Soho House wouldn't. I had a friend who is very good looking. He's made fortunes in money. He's youngish, but whatever. And they took away his membership after 3 times of going there with men in suits. They warned him. This was years ago. And he's a lovely bloke and everything, but it kills the thing. Nobody wants to see that corporate look. Loads of people in there are, but they don't, whatever. So that creative thing doesn't sound so corporate, does it?
Yeah.
And so shaking hands isn't, it's like when I ring up places now, they go, oh, well, can I call you Philip? They don't say Mr. Why? Because it's corporate. You don't say Mr. Sallon. You don't say Mr. Vice, whatever. Do you know what I mean? It's all part of that word corporate. And just remember what I'm saying, because it's not me being whatever here. It sums up a huge amount of what's going on in what we're living in.
Yeah.
All right. So, but what was the question? I've even forgotten what it was now. Oh, yeah, how Clubland had changed. So Clubland is certainly less corporate. It's certainly talking comes first. It's unfortunately a bit more networky. It's not as dressed up as it was. But then again, I'm in the West End. I know in Hackney, there probably would be more dressy people, but not outrageous. And the new Hackney is Peckham now, isn't it? But I wouldn't think it's full of freaks in Peckham, is it? Not that I know of.
I don't know. There's
But
a few.
anyway, you know, but that it's just hard for me to get to Peckham. But well, it is. It's awkward. You know, it's
no
not
buses
the
that go there.
No. My broomstick doesn't go over the clouds there.
Oh
very
yeah,
well.
of course.
Oh well, anyway. Go on.
So a question for you as well is, have you always felt confident expressing yourself, or is that something you've had to work on to get to how you are now?
No, I've not always had confidence, but now I've got a lot more. It just goes. It's just I don't actually care generally. But then again, if somebody was being horrible to me, I would care. I would start getting upset. But generally, if I'm flaunting around, I don't care. I think, fuck them. If they got a problem, fuck them. You know what I mean? Who cares? But just do what I do. So, you know, because you just feel like it. But the problem with that is, this is something you have to remember. You know, this word free expression. You know, oh, great, let's all do free expression. Unfortunately, there is a very dodgy side to that coin, which is what? I can give you an example of somebody who was an artist who went around the city selling all pictures and everything, and ended up, you know, and it was all the age of free expression, big time. And should I tell you who that was?
Yeah.
Adolf Hitler.
Oh.
And he ended up being so free expression that fine, we can just kill whoever I want. It doesn't matter because I'm a free spirit. And so it depends what you call free expression. So don't think, oh yeah, I listen to Philip Sallon, I'm going to do all free expression. There's free expression and there's free expression. There's not free expression at the thing of endangering other people's lives. Do you know what I mean? If it bothers them that you're doing your own thing, they can fuck off. But if it's actually endangering them somehow, then it's another story. Or putting people's lives at risk or your own life at risk. You know, that's why I don't take drugs. I'm into human life is sacred. I know it's a corny expression, but it's true.
Yeah.
Hence, my life is sacred and their life is sacred. So you just carry on accordingly and you just try and, you know, do all that. Just try and be as respectful to everybody's life, but not respecting their bigoted views where we all have to be the same. You think, piss off.
So is there anyone you can give advice to if they are lacking confidence or feeling insecure about themselves?
That's an interesting one. It depends who the person is. You just relate to every person. But if somebody lacks confidence, what is the answer to that? I mean, alcohol is not the answer. It's not like, oh, you go out and get drunk. Because you should never, ever drink if you've got any kind of dodgy things, whatever. Because when that wears off, it becomes worse and you end up relying on the drink. So, I mean, I don't like alcohol. I hate it. But I have got drunk occasions because thank God I hate the taste of it. I don't want to enjoy it. But I've never, ever I haven't got drunk for ages, years. But that would be the only time I would drink is to have a drink. I would never have a drink. It would only be... But because I never drink, you know, I go whatever first. But that's not the way to be a free spirit. I don't know what the answer to it is, actually. Each person's different, and it's how do you bring them out of themselves? I don't know. It's just working on the right way of bringing them out, but not demoralising people and making them feel small and go, oh, you're wearing a uniform, you look shit. You know what I mean?
Well, to me, obviously, if there's someone who's lacking confidence, I'll probably just like say, if like they're worried about people staring at them and looking at them, I'll say, well, you're never going to see that person again. Just be you, or do it scared. So if you're terrified of doing something or what people's going to think about you, then I'll kind of just do it anyway.
Yeah, but can I tell you
something? Is there anything you would say about that?
Yeah, well, there is something I can say about that, because this thing about worried what people are going to say about you, that can be connected to the word paranoia.
Yeah.
That you are. But do you know what the mechanism of paranoia is? Imagine I'm sitting on a train, and if I was properly paranoid, I'm thinking, she hates me over there. And then you start looking at all people and they hate you. And you think, well, that's proper paranoid because they don't know you from Adam. Why, and do you know why you're doing that? Go on, see if you can get that in one sentence. Why would I be doing that? Why would I be thinking that they hate me? Because
probably just you inner hating yourself, really. Or
what do you mean you hate yourself? And
because I'm not.
Go on, if you hate yourself, what's that got to do with them hating you?
I think it's just the way some people think is if they hate themselves, they're going to think everyone else around them is hating them.
I agree. If you don't feel confident yourself, and you feel crap yourself, then you sometimes think, oh, that's what how other people see you as well.
Yeah, but you're
in reality,
right.
Though,
But can I tell you
what
something? What you think they're saying about you is you're projecting what you don't like about yourself onto other people.
Yeah.
So it's not just you're saying, oh, they're saying it. It's you're actually, and you analyse what you think they're saying about you. It's things that you're not dealing with about yourself. So you push something down, something you don't like. You think, oh, I've got big nose or something, and then the woman over there, she's thinking I've got a big nose. She hates me because that's what you're thinking about yourself. Do you understand? And that's the mechanism of paranoia. You project things you can't deal with onto other people.
So what would you say to the people who kind of have that way of thinking?
Then you have to say to them, you have to deal with the things that you don't like about yourself and start saying, why would I hate myself for that reason? Because I've got no reason to. Good, I'm different, great. Do you know what I mean? But each one deal with individually. Yeah. Otherwise, you end up being some paranoid schizophrenic or whatever you want to call it. I don't know.
So last but not least, moving forward in the world of fashion, music and art and everything in between, is there anything you'd like to see moving forward?
Anything change to make it better in the future?
There's a million things. There's so many things I'd like to make better. I mean, Russia has been behaving appallingly. Really appallingly, just walking into other people's countries. It's the biggest country in the world, but it can never be big enough. You know what I mean? After the war, when Hitler got defeated, they took over the whole of Eastern Europe because they can never. And yet, there's only about 150 million people in America, in Russia. There's about 70 million in Britain. So they're only about double the population of us and about 1 million times bigger. And America's got about somewhere 350 million or something. But, Russia's population is dwindling, actually. I heard it because a lot of them drink themselves to death. Have you heard that one?
I haven't.
I don't know if that's
I know they drink
true.
a lot.
Yeah, I've heard they've got a big alcohol problem there. But, Russia is in an awful way. This thing of world domination, it's bloody awful. I'd like to see that change.
Yeah.
And, it's not... I mean, all it does is make them poorer at the end of the day, because the amount of money they're losing... this country went to war with Russia because of them walking into the Crimea in the 1850s. Well... Oh, but that war counts for nothing. Florence Nightingale was the nurse then. Oh, but we shouldn't have done it. We should have just let Russia take the Crimea. Get real. Do you know what I mean? And that is a big problem. But there's other things I think... people need to do as many good turns as possible for each other. We all network to a point, but if life is just about who you can use and who you can get things out of, that's not right. You know what I mean? But fine if you can get people to help you, but you try and you reciprocate and help total strangers as well. I mean, you give them money, but you just try and lift everybody up. Whatever you want to call it, lift them up in whatever way. Just try and lift up people as much as you can. But on the other hand, people would say, well, you're lowering my spirits by looking like that. And I think, well, that's your tough luck. But it depends.
But it's not them who's wearing it, is it? It's
well, that's their problem. But apart from that, if I can lift them up, I will. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Can't you ask me a question where there's something funny involved? Because I'm best when I'm funny,
Was there anything you want to add that we haven't asked you that you feel like would be fun for everyone?
Is there anything in your whole existence in the fashion, TV, film world where surreal moments happen, but it's been really funny at the same time?
What it's been funny as well as surreal.
Yeah, like,
surreal can be funny. What do you mean?
Well, has anything ever happened in your career where, like you were saying earlier on about you were at the Pirates of the Caribbean premiere and Johnny Depp commented on your outfit
because I was dressed as a pirate, and he went, "You look great," which is very nice.
Okay.
There was something very nice about him, despite all that horrible publicity. But he seemed very nice. I mean, that was all. We just exchanged those words and goodbye. But
is there anything that's ever happened in your existence of, you know, while you've been in that world where something's happening, it's like really made you laugh, or you've really made someone laugh?
I go around laughing all the time. I turn everything into a joke. I do. I just think make things as fun as possible. But unfortunately, in this, I haven't been making things that much funnier. But I am best when it becomes funny.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All right, you could say, well, somebody killing somebody is not funny. That's true. But generally, you know, I just try and turn it all into make it fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Make it fun doesn't mean it's a joke. And people can misconstrue it that way and think, oh, so you think me having this is a joke. But you just make it into a laugh. I'm just trying to think of something that you would just anything. So it doesn't matter where I go. It could be the worst place. I still have a laugh there. You just lift it up. Just enjoy life as much as you can. I'm not into it. My emblem is not suffering. If I have to suffer, you know, you get older and you end up suffering. But I'm certainly not something that I would venerate on a pedestal. You just try and venerate the fun bits where you can, you know, not have suffering and not have other people suffering. But
I like that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for coming on today, and we really appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Philip. Love you, Philip.